Ms. Jones, do I have a quorum?
Yes, ma'am, you do.
Mark, are you ready?
I am, thank you.
All right, super. Good evening, everyone. I would like to call the Groton Board of Education regular meeting August 22nd, and it's 6:04, and I would like to call it to order. And the first order of business is salute to the flag. Susan, would you be willing to lead us to? Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Sorry, I just want to slow down. The next part is recognition of and participation of visitors and or delegations, and I don't think that we have any. So we are going to move on to comments from citizens. This is part of our agenda item and other subjects of concern that lie within the jurisdiction of the Board of Education. This is the portion of the agenda where the board welcomes comments from citizens. Each presentation should be limited to 5 minutes or less, and citizens should, if possible, submit written comments. Presentation should be related to matters pertinent to Groton. Board members will only ask questions in order to clarify the speaker's presentation and cannot respond during the comments of citizens portion of the board meetings. Citizens should state their names and addresses for the record. Ms. Jones, do we know of anyone that is asking to speak to the board that is online? Because we have no one here in public.
I have not received anything.
I know. We do not have anyone in the chat as well. And I don't see anyone wishing to speak or raising their hand. So I am going to move us past that. Just trying to do that slowly in case someone's trying to figure out technology. All right, we are going to move down to the student representative report. And have we heard anything from the high school?
I have heard that there were 4 selected, but we haven't met them yet. So as soon as they get back to school, hopefully we'll be meeting them next month.
Okay, and maybe we could have a board member meet with you guys so that we can get to, we can. And I think Andrea would be happy to do that, to meet up with the student report. Okay, can people on Zoom hear me as well? Okay, thank you, Tom. I'm hoping that we have a family showing today. That's all. All right, and so I'm going to move us down to the superintendent and administration reports. And Susan.
So we have an attendance report. The board has all seen it, but we'd like to go through it, and Tom is able to showcase the report. So we'll do like we've done before, where we'll go through the beginning of the report, stop it, and if there are any questions, or if you have questions in between, just raise your hand and we can stop it so we can see each other.
Can you guys just confirm for me that you can see my screen?
Yep, I
Yes.
can see it.
Perfect. So we are going to review the attendance data from last school year. This is one of the first data sets that has been released. We are anxiously awaiting the rest of the state data to be released at some point this week is what we anticipate from Abe Christ over at CSDE. So we should see the rest of the data this week. So we are going to be looking at 2 of our indicators today around chronic absenteeism. First, I just want to start off with a couple quick definitions. So the difference between chronic absence and truancy in the state of Connecticut. So chronic absence is missing 10% or greater of the total number of days enrolled during a school year. So for a student who's with us every single day during the school year, that's 18 days, more than 18 days. However, if a student is only with us for a month, that's only counted within a month. So if you're only here 30 school days, more than 3 days would be considered chronically absent. So it is percentage based. It's not just a certain number of days. And then truancy is 4 unexcused absences in 1 month, which they don't calculate it just by the month of September. They calculate it as a 30-day consecutive period. And then 10 or more unexcused absences in a school year. All right. So this was our data for all students in Groton. So this is historical from 2016-17 till the present. And as you can see, we had relatively consistent chronic absence data before the pandemic. This is for all students altogether. So ranging from 11.3 up to 12.6. We went very high during the pandemic, as most districts did, to 37.5%. We have dropped back down to 27% for last year, but that is obviously still well higher than we were before the pandemic. The important thing to remember here is that 1 COVID quarantine from last year was 10 school days. That would count towards chronic absenteeism, not truancy, but chronic absenteeism, it would affect a student. So if they were out for 1 quarantine or in potentially multiple quarantines, that had a major effect, we believe, on the chronic absenteeism numbers from last year.
Or COVID illness.
Or COVID illness, absolutely. Or exposure at home, any of those things could have greatly
So
impacted
when the
that.
State Department met with us, they actually said that that this is pretty familiar because of the way we were quarantining and expecting people to stay home when they're sick. And then if they were exposed, remember we were contact tracing and sending people home. So, but we certainly want to get back to where we were and even better than that.
Absolutely. So the state looks at 2 different indicators. They look at all students. That's what you're seeing here. They also look at it by high needs students. These are 2 different indicators the state bases it on. And as you can see, similar kind of data before the pandemic. So pretty consistent in the years leading up to the pandemic, very high during the pandemic year. And then again, a substantial drop, but still well above where we want to be. So at 33.5% last year. High need students are students who are free for free and reduced lunch, ELL, or special education. So they are grouped together into a category called high needs by the state of Connecticut. So what Susan and Phil and I wanted to do, there's no perfect way to try to figure out exactly how much of chronic absenteeism was caused by COVID-19. But we do have a way of getting a relatively close idea, and that is kind of excluding out excused absences. So this kind of takes out the absences that would have been COVID quarantine. It also takes out any other absences that might have been for illnesses unrelated to COVID. So this is not a perfect measure, but it lets us see ballpark what our chronic absenteeism rate would have been if we kind of took COVID out of the equation from last year. So last year we had 27% of chronic absenteeism. However, that goes down to 15.3% if we kind of take out all those excused absences and only look at the unexcused absences. So we're estimating that our chronic absenteeism rate without COVID quarantines would have been in the neighborhood of 15.3%. So again, not an exact figure, but much closer to where we were before, still a bit above our district average, but in that ballpark. Any questions about that metric? Again, this is just an estimate that we created.
Now, the goal for the state is 5%. So we do have.
Or
a way
less.
to go, or less.
Susan, did you say 5%?
Or
5%.
less.
The goal is really to see no more than 5% of our students be considered chronically absent.
And that is a universal goal by CSDE. So where other goals are kind of, CSDE kind of meets you where you are and sets realistic targets to kind of gradually step down or gradually increase. That 5% rule is a universal for every district. So if you could be at 60% chronic absenteeism like some districts are, or where we are, and everybody's goal is the same when it comes to that metric. That is unique for CSDE.
So progress here is when the numbers get smaller.
So
That's what we're looking for.
what is CSDE? Is that Connecticut State Department of Education?
Yes, sorry, Connecticut State Department of Education, correct.
So is there any school districts in our DERG that is close to the 5?
You're gonna get there in a couple slides.
You are thinking ahead.
So one of the ways we wanted to look at the data this year was based on grade level. So we wanted to break up our chronic absenteeism rate based on grade level. Again, this is all students. It's not just high needs. You can see transition years consistently have higher than average chronic absenteeism rates, especially kindergarten in 6th grade, again in 9th grade, and then our seniors as well. We seem to have a lot of seniors who have skipped out at the end of the year and have really spiked that chronic absenteeism rate. That rate was significantly lower earlier in the spring, so that did raise substantially as we approach summer vacation.
Yeah, I just had a quick question. So this is, I put what year? It doesn't say what year. This is last year.
Yes, all this data is last year. That is
I
correct.
mean, it's really appalling when you think of almost half the seniors were chronically absent.
That is correct. So that means they
Yeah.
on average, they missed about 18 days of school.
Right.
Yep,
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
absolutely.
The viewers can't see the percentage for the 12th grade. That comes at 42%, which I found staggering. And I'm not sure anybody can answer the question. I'm very pleased to see we have goals, which will come up in a few slides. But how do we get from 42%? Do we have to do sanctions or can we do education? It's a rhetorical question for now.
Yeah, Matthew, we don't currently have an enforcement mechanism around chronic absenteeism. There is one around truancy because that is a state requirement. So my impression is that most of these would become wrapped up within truancy enforcement. So I don't believe we necessarily need a separate mechanism for chronic absenteeism.
But we will talk about ways that we plan on dealing with this. Coming back to community, attendance matters, you matter for adults and for students. There's no more contact tracing, so we're not sending people home if they've been exposed, unless they've got a fever, unless they're sick, and unless they're living with someone. So the state, of Connecticut health departments have relaxed some of those things because we really feel like a lot of this is an anomaly of what we've just been through in a pandemic.
I'm going to recognize Rita and then Andrea.
Hi, yes, I thought we had a policy for chronically absent students that if you missed so many days, you were, I know a letter went home and you were told that you weren't going to be able to graduate or move on to the next grade level. Is that still the case?
It
And-
is, and that is around truancy. Absolutely.
Truancy, but what about the chronically absent? I thought that was the same thing.
So truancy it wraps all those up. Chronically absent isn't necessarily a measure that we're looking at in those terms. So, but to your point, the triggers around reaching out at certain kind of thresholds when they meet, 3 days, 5 days, 10 days, that is a school and board policy that we do follow up on currently. Yes.
And how many of these 6th grade students, let's say, or these 9th grade students have been held back? I mean, if a child in 9th grade or 10th or 11th grade doesn't have the amount of credits to move on to even graduate, are they brought in and, do they speak to their guidance counselor and say, listen, you're not going to be able to graduate if you don't have the credits, you've been absent a third, so many days. And what do we do for our younger students? I mean, I know it's not kosher anymore to hold people back, but you get to the point that they have to be way behind grade level if they're missing that many days of school. So, I mean, I think we're doing a disservice if we don't have stricter, policies about this.
So beyond the pandemic, which really highly affected these numbers, because a kid could be out for 10 days, he would, with the illness and then maybe 10 days with the quarantine or something like that. And within 1 year, they're chronically absent, more so than we've ever seen before. But with the policy comes a regulation that has tiered interventions, and we use those tiered interventions. We're going to be working with our administrators, our social workers, all those people who have our crisis teams or our attendance teams to really make sure that we're following through with parents, not just sending a letter home, but making phone calls and making sure that we're on top of the reasons why they're out.
Mhm. I mean, Norwich, I know, hired a truant officer also, and I think New London has one. Is that something that we could do?
Say that one more time, Rita. I'm sorry. I got,
Oh, I'm sorry. I know that some towns have truant officers that actually, you know, make a point of, it's just not truant, but those chronically absent from school to go to their homes. I mean, I read the measures in the back that we're gonna do. I mean, they're words on paper to me. But unless you have somebody really like tracking these students, and I don't mean the little teams but I just think that this is really appalling. I mean, even if you look back to what it was, and it's even worse for those students that are on free and reduced lunches and so forth and so on, the number, you know, it's just, these students need encouragement to come to school, and we have to figure out a way to do that. That's my feeling.
So I think one of the things we're putting into place is more support from central office, looking at the numbers timely and making sure that the attendance teams at the schools have the support that they need. We did notice during the COVID year that was so dismal, and, you know, we had hybrid model and a lot of kids out, some kids we couldn't even find. And so we found that having a personalized approach, whether it's your classroom teacher or it's your principal or assistant principal or guidance counselor or somebody you knew coming to the door, seeing what was happening and what the needs of the family were, really served a good purpose in getting some kids back. So we will definitely use those interventions, but we'll also support our schools, giving them, you know, our resources that we have here at central office to help support them. So through data team, we'll be monitoring it, school data teams, and through our actual attendance teams. That's part of why we added hours for our coordinators, our community coordinators too, to help us.
But what about the students that have missed so much? Will they not be allowed to move on to the next grade level?
Well, it doesn't, there may or may not be a correlation with their grades. So there may be students who had about a COVID and then was quarantined, but still was able to go to school on all those other days beyond the 18 and do quite well. You know, they were able to make up some of those assignments.
But when we get to the slide that says percentage of chronically absent students by region, and you look at Waterford, North Stonington, Montville, they're all way below us, and they had the same issues with COVID. So I still think we need to do more as a school system to help our students get to school.
so what would be your, what would be your do more?
Well, first of all, I don't think we should be moving kids on that don't have the grades. This is from elementary on. I mean, I know kids are not being held back, and I think that it's a disservice. It's a disservice to the students. It's a disservice to the teachers that they'll have the next year in school, because they're not ready. Let's say a fifth grader is not ready for sixth grade. They don't have the basis, you know, the knowledge base. I just think that we have to enforce our policies and be a lot stricter, and not be afraid to hold kids back from moving on. And I think that is much more of a threat than, you know, just having a data team look at this and, you know, maybe somebody going to the home once in a while. But
Well, that's not what I hear them saying. I do hear that we're getting in charge of the data, but I don't hear it's just a once in a while. So I do want
No,
to.
there's been a lot of persistence around getting kids back to school, and there has been a pandemic. You need to remember that this is a once in 100-year kind of thing that happens. And we believe in accelerating kids, engaging them, getting them back, and giving them the tutoring and the extra help that they need so that they can continue on to the next grade level. And we've been pretty successful with that. But this data does show that we had, you know, more students than usual have that 18-day out of 182-day problem.
Andrea?
First, I want to say that in terms of the pandemic, that was then, this is now. So we're looking at now. So I'm wondering, Susan, do we have a reason why each of these students was absent today?
It's all in Power School, yes.
And,
Unless it's unexcused and the parent didn't give us information.
and that was my question about, and how do we assess whether it's correct? or not?
Well,
They tell us.
I think the closer to home, that's why it's harder to tell from a district bird's eye view. The closer to home we are to the school situation, and it's really that classroom teacher is more likely to find out what the needs of the family, what the needs of the student is, to be able to inform us.
So it
So,
doesn't sound to me like we have anything formal in place for assessing.
well, it is the classroom teacher that is marking them in Power School. So that's as close as you can get to knowing if they're, why they're out.
Why
Yeah,
being
maybe I
excused and not excused, or is it different? You said why?
Well, yeah, the parent would say that they're sick. They've really been held more accountable to say they're sick and that they have COVID. That's been part of the protocol, you remember.
So
That
this is
they-
this year as well.
This was 21, this is 21, 22
Right.
that you're looking at.
So COVID is behind us.
It's not in the rearview mirror yet.
No, I know that. It's not like.
I
No,
wish it
because-
were.
So my pushback on that, Andrea, is that it's not behind, because there was still protocol in terms of quarantine.
I understand that, but I still don't understand. So how are we assessing whether, I guess parents, since you mentioned that they're giving the accurate reasons for it? They're not just saying, well, they're sick.
I'm sorry, I think I have an answer for Andrew's question, but can somebody repeat it a little louder for me, please?
I didn't hear that.
How
Can
do
you say your
that?
question a little bit louder?
Oh, I see, Tom. My question is, how do we know that what the parent is telling us is so, and that they're just not enabling the child?
So we do have a policy in place. It's part of the truancy policy actually from the state of Connecticut. So for the first 10 excused absences, 10, we do take the parent's word for it, but the parent has to either call or directly email the school saying that a student is sick. After 10, a doctor's note or some kind of other valid proof of an excused absence is required. The parent themselves cannot excuse the child after the 10 point.
And are we following through on that?
Sorry, are we following through on that policy?
On getting the note from the doctor?
Yes, to the best of my knowledge, yes. The school nurses, especially last year with COVID-19, were very much on that policy.
And I guess my last comment is that I want to piggyback on what Rita said, and that is, I really believe we need a truant officer. I think we need to take, as Rita says, to take that firm stand on this.
When I look at the chart, the one we had just before, blue, light blue, and orange or yellow, I see 42% amongst the seniors. To me, it says there is a certain number, there are a certain number of seniors who are just ditching school the last few weeks because they finished their stuff. And it's time to take up, and they become role models. Otherwise, I can't explain the difference and why the high school is so much higher than all the others. I may be wrong, but if we have kids who are absent a lot in the last quarter, we need to tell them that they're going to have to do summer school and have their diploma conferred on them.
Well, and we can look at the data like that by quarter to see if your prediction is correct.
It's
Is
not
it the last-
predicting, it's a hypothesis. that's
Yeah.
all.
So we can take a look at that. But I think moving forward, the campaign is going to be attendance matters, and I'm going to be talking about this at convocation with the teachers as well. It matters that the teachers are here with us and that we're back to community and, full throttle, everybody working together, and the kids are back and that message is gonna be loud and clear to parents as well. That it, you know, it makes a difference. Their learning suffers typically if they're not here with us. So,
So, can I just want to make sure I'm clear on what something that Tom said. And that is, I know that policy about, or that state thing about, once you're asked for 10 days, then every time you need a doctor's note. So you're telling me then that for every child that isn't in school, that there's a doctor's note on file every time that kid is absent.
if they said they're there.
Once they go over 10 days, are you asking?
Once they go over 10 days.
Right.
So not necessarily, because we could all, if they don't provide a doctor's note, then the child just gets put in as an unexcused absence at that point.
So we're not doing anything about that.
Well, so if it's an unexcused absence, then it starts our truancy protocol. So then that process begins. So there's kind of a process that goes along with it. So if there is a real reason, the child has a medical condition that's keeping them out of school, they would have doctor's notes in, they would keep getting excused absences, and therefore the truancy kind of procedure would hold off. If they're not providing those doctor's notes, then there'd be unexcused absences put in, at which point then the truancy would be activated and those policies would start to be enforced.
And then what happens?
I'm sorry?
And then what happens? What's the truancy?
Well, the school within 10 business days needs to inform the family that they are truant, and then they're supposed to follow up on that protocol. Ultimately, it can be a referral to DCF if it gets to that point. I don't know of any cases that got to that point last year.
Yeah, there were absolutely DCF reports filed
Can we get
in
the
some
number?
cases.
Can we get the number for that?
I could probably find that.
So can we, Tom, starting the 2022-23 school year,
Yep.
how soon into the school year can we get a cohort of absences that would make sense for the board to look at?
So my thought for next year was to look at this quarterly. So roughly, every 45 school days. That would take us till, I really that first week in November would probably be the earliest that we could look at it. I feel like anything lower than that would be such a small number. It's tough to look at it when you're only talking 20 school days, where 3 school days or more could get you really close to that chronic absent mark. So I think 45 would be a good number to look at this year.
Because this is what I'm thinking. Obviously, the message is from the board is that we're really alarmed at the high level. And that's a good message for you to have, to be able to tell the principals. And that if we can make it our piece that on a quarterly basis, we're reviewing the absence records, and then can say, wait a second, maybe we don't have a policy that's strong enough that the district needs in order to be able to combat that, or are there other mitigating factors that are not in play? And I know that you have some slides that I think you are indicating that, or at least there's a correlation between that. But I am just wondering if it makes sense for us to see what those, did you say like first 45 days, Mike?
Yeah, I believe that's off the top of my head, I think that's November 2nd, but I might be off by a day or two.
Well, shame on you. So if we could, at the very beginning, so Ms. Joan, if you could even help us get a tickler in there so that in November, we're looking at these. And then also sort of, if we can also have, like, what has each individual school been doing if they've noticed that high piece, so that the board can be, so that we can start off knowing what we have in front of us for the school year. Does that make sense to people?
One of the things I have heard from families and from principals is that if a child misses the school bus in the morning, it's not likely that some parents can get them to school. They might not have transportation. They might have a job. There are even children who have to watch their brothers and sisters sometimes. And so that is a dilemma that we have in our community. They even mentioned to me when I was at the barbecue at Branford Manor, it'd be great if we had a bus that could go by a couple of these larger neighborhoods and do a second round to get them to school. So I know that my elementary principals have stated that it's quite a problem, and they've been known even to send, to get the mom and the child in if it's a real problem, to send some kind of a van or something to bring them in. So, that's something to contemplate too, if we want to really figure out what the problem is here. We have to analyze like a lot of different points of view and maybe even survey.
Well, like something like the bus, that's a cost to the district. Don't misunderstand me. It might be very useful, but does the action meet the cost? In other words, you get the better benefit of that. So, but once again, I think that that's something that in November, if we had enough information to be able to determine what's happening, we can then make a decision. Do we put into the budget a truant officer? Do we consider the practices or policies around, do kids get to be able to move up the next level or graduate? I mean, I think it's all well and good that we can take a look and be alarmed, but we need to sort of take this information, and we gotta hope that we've got things in place right now that can help us lower this amount, and that we are also going to be dedicated to that. And that's a message that we can give Susan to give to her staff about that the board is really concerned about that. Matthew and then Rita. And sorry, Susan. Okay.
I appreciate, Susan, very much the nuance expression of some of the reasons in here. And then when we get to the next slide, we'll see that this is linked somehow to free and reduced lunches. So that means that there's a much higher probability that the kids who are most disadvantaged are getting more disadvantaged. So it becomes an equity issue as well. So I'm wondering if we couldn't, I don't want to call it policy, because, but a practice, if you will, that if a child misses, you pick the number, I'll use the number 3, but it's your call. The child misses 3 classes in a 2-month period, or however you want to structure it, that automatically at that point, well before we hit the threshold of 3, that we have some direct contact with the family to say, what's going on? If the child's sick, is he or she doing the homework? What resources can we bring to you? That we initiate this sooner, so that if somebody is falling off the cliff, we can catch them before they hit the cliff.
So that's why I said the closest person, especially in elementary, is that classroom teacher, because they are in communication with the parent. They would reach out if the parent hasn't called. And as soon as they saw some kind of a pattern, or, knew that the child was, really being compromised because of the attendance, they would absolutely follow up. In a high school, it could be the counselor, it could be a teacher, it could be a social worker. But you're right, it's got to be someone who knows the child and would be paying attention to that. And better than, we could be looking at it at central office and say, by the way, which we will, but also I think making a point to the teachers that they, as they're part of their role, is to be paying attention to attendance.
Would it help, do you think it might help the faculty or the teachers and support staff if they were at threshold that we said, at whatever number you thought was appropriate? So we didn't have different teachers using different standards, and X number and Y amount of time, automatically that's when we need to have a first intervention.
Well, it has to be, it has to be less than 3 in a month, because 3 in a month already makes them chronic.
I trust you, but let's.
But it could be if
let's
they know that they have COVID, you had, information from the home and information from the doctors, you wouldn't call them on the COVID because you knew you had a reason. It's the ones that don't have a reason that you have to watch out for.
But we saw with our analysis of the reading scores, that's also again skewed to the economically insecure. So even if they have a reason, early intervention is in my humble judgment, is the best way to mitigate the damage.
Right. Sooner than later. So it becomes a problem.
Yeah, and Matthew, I think that we need to hold on to the whole issue around equity. Like, what does the board determine as equity, right? And that in terms of getting, that just, equity is kind of keeping the playing field the same for everyone. So giving people what they need in order to be able to have what that thing, that's sort of what equity is, right? And so if we're having a higher level of absenteeism, right, in areas where there's not as much equity, how do we as a district support that? And I think that goes to the scores, the meeting scores, the common scores, right? Rita, did you have your hand up still?
Yes, I do. I'll lower it now, but I do have a couple of questions. Susan, I'd like you to check for me with the high school administration. When my children were students at the high school, and I know even after that, if a child or a student was chronically absent or truant, 10 days one semester, let's say 10 the next, they were called in front of a panel. Even if they had excused absences, if it was more than 20 days, the panel was made up of peers, teachers, and administrators. And they sat down with them, and then actually this panel decided whether or not they could move on. If there are excuses why they weren't there, not just like a fake doctor's note, but a real doctor's note. They had operations and so forth, but they actually, there was some meat behind everything that, people didn't want to be called in front of this group of people and sort of gone over everything. You were then held back, or you couldn't go on to the next grade level. What is being done like that at our high school now? That's what I wanted you to check on and report back to us, not just in board notes, but publicly.
I'd be happy to.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Are we ready to continue?
Please do, my friends.
Okay.
Oh, I'm being reminded by my fair lady to my left, Andrea.
I just had an observation about the bus. I wouldn't want to give the idea that, oh, well, I'll sleep in because I'll just catch the later bus. But in terms of the cost, don't we pay for the bus from what?
6 to 6.
6 to 6, so
This
there,
time.
yeah, there wouldn't be any bus there.
Right, I appreciate that. As soon as it came out of my mouth, I realized that. But I'm hoping that, and then we can move on, is that this does help you, Susan, in terms of that the board is really concerned about specifically the 12th grade and the 40%.
Well, I think each of the transition years causes us alarm, like what's happening, that in those years, kindergarten, 6th grade, 9th grade, and 12th grade, those seem to be the high spikes.
All right, Tom.
So I think Matthew alluded to this already, but this is looking at the percentage of chronically absent students by free and reduced lunch status. So again, this is all students, but broken up by whether they are eligible for free meals, reduced meals, or not eligible for free meals. This is the closest we can look at socioeconomic data. As you can see, there is a strong correlation between the relative socioeconomic status and the rate of chronic absenteeism. So students who received free meals have a much higher rate of chronic absenteeism than students who do not, and students who are reduced.
Tom, last year though, everyone received free meals, right? The past couple of years, and this year.
That is correct, but they still do have applications on file, so
Okay.
We still can determine it because there are other factors that are at play. They might receive SNAP assistance, for example, in the home outside of school. So we are able to still have that data. Any other questions on this slide?
I think we're moving.
So this is chronic absent by special education status. So students without disabilities versus students with disabilities. As you can see, there is a much higher rate of chronic absenteeism for students with disabilities. This is not unique to Groton.
When we do something like this in the future, Tom, can we get an N for each of the columns?
I'm sorry, can you say that again? You want the number in each cohort? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I don't want to identify anybody, but just the number. in each
Yeah, no, absolutely. We can do that.
going forward.
So we did a few comparisons. This is regionally. So I did just try to grab the surrounding towns so everybody could see kind of in relative terms where we fell this year. Groton is roughly in the middle, kind of looking regionally where we are at this point.
Do you have any idea what Waterford is doing different?
No, but I'm thinking I want to call my friends over there.
Yeah.
Because Waterford is large like Groton. The other North Stonington are really much smaller districts. I don't know what's happening in Preston either, because they're a small district. They've got a large number.
So Groton, Norwich, and New London are all high risk identified. It's not the Alliance District, because I don't want to get confused if we're in the Alliance District of the state, but it's actually the reason why we have Children First. So there's a Children First Norwich, there's a Children First in London, and there's a Children First Groton. And we all got monies for that, for 3 communities, because we were identified by the federal government as I need. There goes the word. I knew if I moved my sentence along a tad, I would get it. Right. So I'm not surprised that Groton, Norwich, and New London have the high percentage of absence.
I mean, there's also been question with Power School and making sure that our secretaries are all recording data properly. There has been problems in the past that we might not have accurately noted that. So Tom's on that as well to make sure that next year we're really careful with how we're marking attendance. And it's not going to be as complicated next year as it has been the past several years.
Absolutely. Any other questions regarding this slide? We have a few more comparisons to look at as well. So this is looking at our district reference group, our DIRG. So these are our districts who are roughly in the same socioeconomic breakdown as we are. And as you can see here, Groton again falls roughly in the middle of the grouping.
Tell us where Gilbert is. Do you know?
I'm sorry?
Gilbert.
Gilbert is Gilbert School. That is
That's
one
cool.
school that is singled out and within our DIRG.
Okay. No? Yeah.
All right, and then we also looked at it by the Alliance districts. So this again is a very large spread. I would say Groton is within the bottom third here, so that is very good news overall. But you can see, I mean, the spread is very large from Vernon, who was at about 15%, all the way up to New Haven, who is at about 60% this year.
So NPR did this huge section on New Haven that they've actually are hitting the streets right now about the first day of school and the importance of going to school. They're doing kindergarten, middle school, and so 6th grade and 9th grade. So they're doing they're really focusing in on those three areas. Rita.
Yes, could you tell me after Handham, it says new, after Manchester, it says east? What towns?
Oh, I apologize. It must have cut them off. Off the top of my head, I don't know. I can follow up and fill those in. I apologize.
Okay, that's all right.
I think when I rotated everything, it must have cut those off. I'm assuming like east is probably East Haven. Oh no, that's not East Haven. So I will follow up with you. It might be East Windsor in that case.
Or East Hartford.
Yep, or East Hartford, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. No
Yep.
problem. I was just curious.
No, I will send a list that faces the right way of all the towns. I apologize for that.
I really appreciate all this work you're doing, Tom. This is amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
No.
They can hear you through the laptop, but we're not hearing.
So for 1 second, we're just having some fun technical things. Our speakers are not on, so people are hearing.
The lights on now.
That's Bill, it sounds better.
Bill, can you hear us now?
That's a little
Sounds
bit
about
better.
the same.
Sounds
maybe.
about the same, but I mean,
It's more when Andrea and Matt are talking.
Yeah, from the side.
Well,
Can
the
you hear me
lights are
on this
on
side?
now, so we'll have them test it. Testing 1, 2, 3, Matt.
4, 5, 6, 7.
yeah,
Better?
better.
Yeah,
Oh, she's in heaven.
Is that better? I really want to.
They gave us thumbs up.
yeah, it's definitely better, guys.
Okay, well, there's this thing, there might be a reason why she is the superintendent, is that she just figures out that there's a power button to push.
I figured that out a little before.
All right, moving us forward, please.
All right. So we did sit down together and start developing. Obviously, this is just a district level action plan. There are things that need to be done at the school level as well. And I don't know if Susan and Phil want to jump in at certain points to talk about them. I know one thing we want to do is increase our district level communication about the importance of school attendance through an Attendance Matters campaign. I don't know if Susan, you wanted to speak to that at all?
Well, we had done this, I think, the couple years before COVID hit, and it did seem to have some positive effects. We had a big banner on the buildings. We made, the little magnets. We talked about it. I talked about it at the district level. Principals talked about it on a regular basis, but what really happened was we had these teams that really were working well and making sure we were following up, calling families if they hadn't called in, making sure, was it the child's health? Was it another issue? Was it they missed the bus and didn't have a ride? Really finding out why they were absent. So we will definitely reignite that campaign. We tried to do the best we could during those years with COVID, but it was really challenging because people just weren't coming back and they were, kind of sequestered in their homes. So we will do that again. And then going back to the tiered series of interventions, which we work so hard on, that are attached to the policy as regulations.
Yeah, and one of the things, I'll just speak to the next bullet about the school level attendance data teams. Susan and I visit all the schools together once a month, but then we each, we have individual meetings with the principals as well. Susan with the middle and high school, and I go to the elementaries. And part of these monthly meetings are going to include a portion of that meeting being dedicated to attendance, getting reports on what their school level attendance data team is doing, what they're finding, and then to one of the board members' earlier points, what we can do to support them. So we're anticipating, increased communication on this issue. We were going to do this, anyway, as we are again trying to move forward, post-COVID. But of course, in light of these numbers, it is going to be a monthly priority to check in and have an accurate understanding of the numbers at each building.
Absolutely. And I just wanted to speak to two of the bullet points here. On the one hand, we are simplifying our attendance reporting next year to try to make it easier on teachers, secretaries, and school administrators. So we truly understand who's excused and who's unexcused. We want that to be a big focus next year so we can understand the reason behind the absences. And then second, we are implementing a new system. So to Matthew's point about kind of setting, I wouldn't say queries might not be the right word, a trigger, for example, to say, a student has missed 2 days of class within the past 30 days. We will have a system in place that provides that report to principals based off whatever parameters that we decide to set as a district team. So one of those may be on chronic absenteeism, some around truancy. We can provide really streamlined reports to each building, to those principals, and that would assist Susan and Phil as they meet with them. They can go with a report and have a list of all the students who meet those criteria with them.
I wonder if we can go back to the tiered series of interventions. Do we know exactly what that is?
Yes, it's attached to the policy, so we can get that to you.
Okay, I'm wondering if we could spend an entire COW on each of these bullets, so that we really understand, what do you mean when you say tiered? What are the increased supports to school level attendance? Exactly what do you do? What are we planning to do? I wonder if we could get a whole COW.
We could certainly do that. We could bring the principals in and some of the people on these attendance teams to talk to the board about it as well.
So that makes sense for November when we get the data, we could then also have that conversation as well.
Good, okay.
All right.
I have one more thing that I wanted to
Yep.
say. And if we were, I know when I was not when I was a principal, it didn't happen then, but when I was a teacher, we used to have a dedicated teacher who would call home at each absence. So let's say we went back to that and we get the answer, well, he missed the bus. If we got that bus from 6 to 6, why couldn't we just say, okay, we'll send the bus for you? I guarantee you that would stop.
So let's talk about that in November, because
Yeah.
my concern is that we've gotten pretty much into the weeds around this stuff.
Right.
So you're talking about specific interventions. Let's hear what happens to our data in November.
As long as we can talk about this.
And then along with that is the action, the district action plan.
Very much. Okay, I'm happy.
Because I'm gonna be very interested to hear about how, if we are really focusing in on making sure that the data is implemented and inputted correctly about, because I know that has also been a struggle, especially for the middle and high school students in terms of catching each class. So I'm interested in doing that. All right, Tom, can you move us through?
Yep. Susan and Phil and I met, and we also wanted to make sure that we were setting goals. We thought it would be appropriate to try to set some goals over the next 3 years. We wanted to set both ambitious goals and realistic goals. We were also, all of us were in agreement. We wanted to set goals where eventually we were getting data that was better than we were from before the pandemic. So here you can see that our goal for this upcoming year for all students is 13.5%. So that's half of what it was last year. So we're aiming to have our chronic absenteeism from 21-22, and then steadily dropping percentage-wise down to 10% in 24-25. And that would be our lowest since, really we have the data based on these indicators. We did the same exercise, but for our second indicator, which is looking at high needs students. So here we're going from 33.5%, we're aiming to get down to 20%, then 17.5%, and then down to 15% in 3 years. So again, we're aiming to be below where we were on average from prior to the pandemic by the end of 24-25. That is our goal at this point.
Thank you so much. And I echo what Rita talked about, is that we really appreciate your hard work in making sure that we have this data, but also putting it in a way that kind of makes sense for us. So that's actually what Rita said, so I'm just echoing, I give credit is due, echoing what Rita had said in terms of your work and helping us understand it. And clearly, this board is concerned about this, like you guys are. And so the partnership around to do that feels really, really wonderful. Let's move on to enrollment.
So we still are working very closely with the registrar, and Tom and Rebecca have certainly supported that team to make sure that we've been able to get requests in. I had mentioned in one of the board notes a couple weeks ago that the military children continue to come in, especially kindergartners. And I did talk to Miranda about how orders have been given to get to Groton, but they're waiting for that October 1 number when the military has the funds to send them to their new port. So we might just have a little overlap in here, which can be a good thing for impact aid. So as long as I can find a seat for every kindergartner. We also have done that preliminary screening for TK. We actually did a pretty thorough screening just at the beginning of August. And so there have been 18 students selected. So they'll be taken out for the 1 year to go to Thames River with the TK teacher, but they'll be making room in those kindergarten classes that they're leaving. So that's a very good thing for us too, because we have that extra FTE for TK. When I look at the numbers, I just kind of did an average of what's there. Now, they are not all placed, and there will be even some children coming in probably the day of school starting for the screening, and we haven't known them yet. So, but most of the numbers are between 18 and 22 in K through 5. So right now, I'm really not alarmed. I don't see anything outrageous in those numbers. But I do worry if we continue to see the boats come in and not see people moving, that it could cause a little bit of strain. Although I have to say that the board recognizes the value of having small classrooms, and you said your ideal is really a good number ideal. It's really between 20, 22, 24 as the kids get older. And so, but by contract, I've had years where at one of the military schools, we might have 25, 26, and we've been able to have a pair by contract. We are able to add support in the classroom to help the teacher. So just letting you know, it's not all settled. We still have probably another 100 being registered across the district, K through 12. And they're working very hard on this every day and communicating to parents. Some of it is we have an online system for enrollment, which is wonderful. But then if they need to show the verification for registration and proof that they live here, that sometimes comes in a little later. So just making those phone calls home that you're not fully registered yet, you still need X, Y, and Z. So Tom's even on that. He's thought of a way that it can give those parents feedback from that system to say, you still need to do this or that. You still need to bring in your lease or whatever it is. So we're working on it, trying to make it a better process too.
Thanks for keeping us updated. MSAP
MSAP grant. So stands for Magnet School Assistance Program. We had one of those for West Side and Cutler, if you remember. It was with Learn, our really wonderful partners at Learn. I can't say enough about them, between the professional learning and the opportunities that they've given us and the networking that is provided through Learn for all the districts around is phenomenal. And when Learn approached me, it was Kate Erickson who approached me personally and said, we were so proud of the way that Groton performed on the MSAP grant from the middle schools. She was inviting me to apply and to think about it for the elementary schools. So she said that the follow through with the MSAP grant, the data from the past MSAP grant was phenomenal. I hear from Principal Bass and Leslie Forbes and Kathy Wilson, who are knee deep in the process, that it was so enriching for the kids and amazing what we were able to provide. You know, the community provided this beautiful Groton Middle School, but with what's inside the community and the teaching and learning that's happening and the resources, whether it's through coding and robotics or whether it's through the core classrooms, you know, the music program, so many facets were really sought or were available because of this grant. So in a similar way, the real thrust of a Magnet School Assistance Program is equity. So it really goes right along with our goals here and our vision here with the building of the 2 new elementary schools and the idea of having magnets and home area schools. We really did see improvement in our data as far as equity, but we're not there yet. And so that's the reason that this grant would help us. I don't know if you remember the name Michael Alves, but he was one of the professors that really worked with us side by side to make sure that Groton Middle School had equity down into the classroom and made sure that it wasn't just in the school, but that in the classroom, you know, in all the periods that it mirrored the community. And so that's what we would like to see in our elementaries as well. And the resources besides, you know, I mean, that's the real focus of an MSAP grant. And there was another quote that I didn't put in that was in the letter. While progress has been made in Groton's desegregation efforts, Connecticut continues to provide notice to the Board of Education of impending imbalance. The board seeks to prevent a recurrence of minority group isolation that led to the creation of the Groton 2020 plan, because that was the catalyst for change for us. You know, it was already in the thoughts of people, I think going back to 2002, but it was that letter that we got from the State Department that really put the plan into motion. And it says a key strategy for a sustainable solution is the creation of rigorous and engaging magnet schools, which will attract diverse applicants from across the Groton communities. So, you know, disaggregated by socioeconomics, by different races, by looking at our bilingual community and our Spanish-speaking community. So all of those will be, part of this. And the way that we can magnetize these magnets with the extra funding and partner with NEST and Project O. Those all have big price tags. So I think this is going to give us more leverage. And even looking at a Northeast Academy Arts to see what are some of the things that can draw populations there is really important. So that's the concept of the MSAT, and the Learn folks have been given some, reassuring news, good news that this is very promising as well. So I know that Tom has worked so hard on the data that's been needed. I don't know what I would do without him these days with all that we've had. But certainly appreciate, both he and Phil work on these projects together and then keep me abreast of it. And then I have to add my 2 cents and we go back to the drawing board. And then we come here and we get more information that we can work on.
So
But
when will we hear about whether we'll get the grant?
so I think the due date for them getting back to the federal government is Wednesday. I think.
That is their goal. So they did come back and ask for both additional data from both us and Learn. They basically want us to play an imaginary game and say, if MSAP doesn't happen, what will Groton and Learn look like in 5 years? Which is an interesting exercise. So we are, both the Learn team and myself are working on those projects. We hope to submit them back to them by Wednesday.
Wow. Yeah, that's a project, isn't it? So,
Because
for
there's
forecasting.
nothing else to do for Learn and for the Groton School District at the end of August.
Sure. But I will keep you posted. I know I feel like I've been talking about both of these grants as if, they're good perspectives, but I'm hoping to know finally by September on both of them. September, October.
Any other questions? If not, I'm moving on. So that would be you, Phil.
Okay, mine's should be relatively quick. We included the PD Day program for August 26th in with the board packet this month. It really just outlines the day that Dr. Sonia Cherry-Paul is with us and the work that we're going to be doing. So I wanted you all to be able to see that. And if you were interested in coming to the keynote address, that is the first thing in the morning at 8 to 9, where she'll be addressing the entire district. And that's
Dr. Ackerman has agreed to do the facilitation afterwards, so please let us know who's coming.
I said that I would assist somebody.
Well, I'll help you. I'll facilitate with you.
and what Susan's referring to is that following the keynote, the different groups will be breaking up to discuss an article chosen by Dr. Cherry-Paul, sort of to continue the discussion of culturally responsive teaching. It's going to be facilitated by members of our faculty and Dr. Ackerman. We're going to get, and you can see on that where the different groups of teachers go to, and those are going to be facilitated sort of by grade level with it should read pre-K through 2, sticking together 3 through 5 and 6 through 8, and then the high school. Also happening throughout the day is that Dr. Cherry-Paul will then meet with these different grade levels just for a half hour. She wanted to bridge a conversation, have an open dialogue, just to hear teachers' thoughts on what they've been doing, where they want to go this year, just to sort of gauge the personality of our crew, and also to hear their concerns and their desires, for the year ahead. Those are only going to be half-hour conversations, and she'll hold those both at Fitch, and then she'll move over to the middle school to meet with the middle school over at GMS. So it's a day really of 3 things: the keynote, the article discussion, and then the half-hour with Dr. Cherry-Paul. So there's a lot of moving parts, but I think everybody knows where they need to go. If you have any questions about that day, please reach out to me. If you want to, you don't have to let me know if you want to come to the keynote, but if you wanted to participate in some other way or attend one of the other sessions, please just reach out so I can help you find where to go. But it should be, we're really excited to be working with her. So I'm looking forward to the day.
Rita?
Yes, Phil, could you give us some background information about who is Dr. Sonia Cherry Paul, like her bio?
Yeah, I can forward that to you. I thought I might have done it a while back when we first started looking at her, but I will, I could forward that to you. She did work.
Well, I mean, just something briefly, just to tell the public.
Yeah. Oh, right now?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Like why
she-
would she be, well, why have you selected her to come to Groton?
We found her, she worked for Heinemann, the publishing company that we've used before. She's also a former colleague of Cornelius Minor, and both in the woman, Dr. Kim Parker, who we're using at the high school to start looking at our curriculum at the high school. So it's sort of all connected, and that's how her name popped up. As we began to sort of look into her work is primarily with elementary and middle school, which is why her work's going to focus there for this school year. And as you can see by the title of, she's going to her workshop, she does do a lot with Readers and Writers Workshop, and using that as a way to really build community and cultural responsiveness in the classroom. So I reached out to her, and I met with her along with Jamal Davis, our DEI coordinator. We sort of laid out the work that we've been doing over the past couple of years, and laid out the work that the DEI committee wants to accomplish over the next 3 years. And really, we tried to see if it was a fit with what the work that she's trying to do. And she has started her own company, has since left Heinemann and started her own company. And I can't for the life of me think of what the name of her company is. But it was really right in line with the many facets of culturally responsive teaching that we've talked about. And in this particular case, really focused on what our elementary school teachers are already doing and how to sort of enhance that experience in their classrooms. So it became a happy marriage right off the bat. And then when we really started exploring the work with Cornelius Minor and Dr. Kim Parker, I think that between the three of them, their work overlaps throughout the district. So we'll have a nice continuation of information going on. And I will still provide a written summary for the board so you can share it with whoever you like.
Okay, thank you.
You survey after professional development. We survey all of our teachers. So we'll really try, sometimes they fill it out, sometimes they don't, but we'll really try to encourage them. Because the more teachers that fill out the responses to this professional learning, the more we really clearly see how effective they are.
Yep.
When's convocation?
Thursday.
This Thursday, right?
Yeah. This Thursday.
I thought it was Friday.
Friday is the professional learning.
I think it was a day coming up, sorry, when we're talking about professional development. Ken, I think you're on.
Okay, hello, everybody. So I'm going to go over the object code summary. I'm going to put it up on the screen. Attachment number 3. Yep, thank you. Hopefully you can see that.
Not really, but
No,
we have some in front of us.
it's not really showing up on
We can
that
make it
either.
bigger, but
Well,
Zoom option.
No, we can see it.
You can see it?
Well, I mean, we have it, it was in our packets.
yeah, it is in your
I'm
packets.
saying- And in the packet, I can kind of read it.
All right, I'm not going to share it because
Orient us. Ken, do
it's
a nice
yeah.
job.
So let's see. So this is for the FY23 year. I will note that the agenda says FY22. This is actually for FY23. And so this is on a total budget of 79,157,271. We're a month and a half in. We're essentially still at budget. Most line items are still at budget. There hasn't been many changes, but there are a couple to note. Number one, we are anticipating a savings of 1 FTE at the Mystic River School. So there is a savings identified here on line number 2 on the first page. And then going down line number 12, there is we are over budget. This is being caused by additional severance that we've had to incur. 1 additional teacher than we had during budget time, as well as 3 para 1 positions have retired. So therefore we have more expense there, but it is offset by the fact that we will replace those positions at lower rates. And then down on line 27, this particular report anticipates 1 additional bus. I know that we're probably going to talk about 2 additional buses. If there is an additional bus, we're hoping that it would be funded by additional cost savings by some late resignations. That calculation has not yet been finalized, as we are still in the process of hiring. So the next report should show something a little bit different there. But all told, we're still on track at this point, although it is early.
Sorry, like, yeah, we're a month into the budget.
Yeah, a little early to to make any declarations.
But, so is the talking about the buses, is that gonna happen when Sam talks about that, so that the 2 of you can kind of chime in? Because I know finance and facilities has talked about that, but the rest of the board needs to probably hear that too. So I'll wait for that conversation with Mr. Kilpatrick. All right. So any other questions about the object code? Seeing none, I'm gonna move us to the health insurance.
Health insurance report attachment number 4. Again, I'm not going to try and share it. I don't know why it's not working. But this is for the full year of FY 22 right through June. You'll notice that the month of June was at 122% of our expected monthly amount. This is kind of in line with what we anticipated. We anticipated the end of the year to be a little heavier as some of the postponed procedures and visits started to come in. This actually comes in amazingly right on our target amount. We're $20,000 under on a 11,800,000, almost $900,000 number. So that's an amazing. Amazing, very, very close. And I took a look at our reserve, and our reserve is coming in exactly where we anticipated it to be when we went through the budgeting process. So as far as how we're marching forward, it's going exactly how we anticipated. So I'm happy from that perspective. So, and then just as a comparison, we really can't compare June to the last 2 Junes, because those were both quite impacted by COVID. But if I look at June of 2019, which is the last time, we were at 122.4% for that month. So I think it's tracking back to more along a normal trend than it had been. So I think hopefully things will start to be a little more predictable as we go forward.
In addition, we had concerns because there were a couple of years that people weren't able to do those normal procedures. So we were worried about spikes, and this kind of comes in more in line with what we were seeing prior to COVID, which is reassuring.
Yep.
Any questions on the health care report? Hearing none, we are going to move to Mr. Kilpatrick. That's you.
Good evening. So I have a couple of things I'll report on tonight: facilities, and also some busted things that we'll talk about briefly. So after a very hectic summer, and I say that with all due respect, it was very hectic because all of our buildings were extremely busy this summer with kids in summer school, Parks and Rec, summer camps, everything else, as I reported at an earlier meeting. So our custodial staff had to really be on their toes and make some adjustments throughout the summer. And Wendell Gaston, our custodial supervisor, really led them along the way to get everything up and shining and ready for the opening of school. Some teachers have already started coming back last week. We always try to get the buildings ready for August 15th. It was a little difficult to get them all ready for that this year, but we came in pretty close. So right now, we're just doing some final dressing up in the buildings as we wait for the teachers to move in next week. I did have also a concerned citizen make a request to find out about a program or a study that was done. It looks like it was done in about 2008 regarding UV as a germicide in schools, in school buildings. So that's the best I have been able to find those units throughout the buildings. I think it was probably in SB Butler, so I'm going to contact the town Public Works tomorrow and see if I can get into that building tomorrow and see if I can find that stuff in SB Butler, because it's not in any of the buildings that we have currently, including Mary Morrison. So we'll report back to Ms. Woods as soon as I have definite answer on it. I also sent out an email and a text to our former director who was here in 2008, when Wes Greenlee, to see if he has any knowledge of that, which I'm sure he does. He doesn't forget anything like that. And so I haven't had an answer back, but as soon as I have an answer, I'll be sharing it with Kim and Jay and the rest of you.
Thank you.
I guess I can move right on to buses. The bus routes have been completed by our coordinators in the transportation office, Jenny and Evelyn, along with the help of Tom, who has disappeared. They're done. They've been handed over to STA, our bus company. They have done some dry runs. However, some drivers drove all summer long too, so they took vacation over these last 2 weeks. So when those bus drivers get back, they're going to have a meeting tomorrow, a bus driver meeting tomorrow. The rest of those runs should be done tomorrow, and then they will all be handed over back to transportation, and we'll make any last minute adjustments to those runs based on what the drivers find out, and then we'll have them posted very shortly.
And I'll be communicating to families. So I've sent out a couple letters already this summer, and this next letter will be more detail about getting to school. And attendance matters.
It sure does, for all of us. I happen to agree with Dr. Ackerman's comments regarding that second bus run concerning people just taking a late run because they can sleep in or whatever they might do. But one thing we don't know is what a bus is going to cost next year, because as we said, we've hired a bus consultant, Mr. Mike Kennedy, and Ken and I have talked to him already. Ken has already sent our existing contract to him. We're going to be going through the existing contract with a fine tooth comb and looking at all aspects of it as to whether the 6 to 6 is really the right thing for Groton to do, because so many things have changed since that contract was written last. Now we have all these magnet schools in town, so that changes transportation greatly. So he's going to be looking at all aspects of that contract and then making some suggestions to us. And Ken and I will be working with him over the next month or so. We're hoping to go out to bid in November. And just to remind everybody, we write a bid spec, specifications for what we want. We may be asking for new buses that are after a certain number of years or mileage or whatever we might need. Newer buses. Maybe right now we pay for fuel, for instance. Maybe we don't want to do that anymore. Maybe we want them to pay for the fuel. So there are a lot of those things that are going on. Those will all be included in the bid spec that will go out in November. And these bus companies will give us their low bid on it, and then we will select the company that meets our needs. So that will hopefully be ready to go out in November, right, Ken? Ken should say yes.
So Jay, do you want to add to that, this conversation?
Yeah, I just wanted to, as we sort of covered at the last meeting a little bit, I just wanted to thank Tom and Sam and the bus coordinators for getting these lists out so early this year so they could do the dry runs. But let people know, anyone who might be watching, these do change almost daily as students come and go. And the other thing is I hear people say, oh, well, I saw a bus go by and it was only half full. We reserve seats on the bus based on students going to a school. We don't know how many of them will be driven by a parent that morning, and then maybe we'll take the bus home that night. So it is a constantly changing picture, day to day, and even morning to afternoon. And so I really give a lot of credit to everybody who's involved with the scheduling and planning of this, as well as the bus drivers who deal with all these last minute changes. It really is quite a bit of teamwork that gets involved with this. So thank you all.
So 2 buses, when will we know for sure we're going to need the 2 buses?
Be working on that this week. It looks like we're going to need 2 buses. So we're pretty sure we're going to need 2 buses. We have them available to us, and the third one sitting waiting. These are what the STA, the bus companies call vans, the shorter version of the bus. We had up to 15, 16 kids on the bus. A lot of kids on the bus.
Some of them hold a wheelchair. We need one more of those because of the students that we have in wheelchairs. Some of them are used for our 3-year-olds in preschool, in special ed preschool, because they have the equipment, the belts, and their, child seats and everything like that. So it was just definitely, we saw an increased number of students who needed transportation from special ed and young children too.
We should have all those answers this week, with the exception of the fact that as school opens up, we may find that there are some students that may not be here any longer that are still on the list. That's a possibility. And of course, not only military kids move in and out of this district, but civilians also move back and forth across the river, up and down the river. So we get a lot of movement in this area. Maybe some late registrations too. So we're going to get everything ready to go. And then after a couple of weeks, then we'll know for sure where we are with it.
I'm going to recognize Liz. And Jay, do you have another comment too? If so, after Liz.
No, I just didn't lower my hand.
Liz.
Thanks, Kim. I just, I'm sorry, but I did not hear when do you think you'll know we'll need that second bus? Sam, I couldn't hear you. Could you just say it again, please?
Yeah, we're looking at adding 2 more special needs buses. And it looks right now, it's pretty clear that we will need those 2 additional buses. But STA has already provided those 2 buses to us. So we know they're available to us. And as Jenny and Evelyn get this stuff done this week, we'll know exactly where we are. And of course, as things change, when we start school and things change over this first couple of weeks, we'll know whether those 2 are sufficient or whether we need to add more or maybe we can reduce them.
Thanks, Sam. Appreciate it.
Well,
When you turn on that mic, I don't think it's switched to the laptop, but you have to choose it.
So tell me what I need to do. Sorry, folks, we're having, and I don't read lips. Poor Mark. He was trying to get a hold of me. Thank you.
Testing. Can you hear any better now?
can you hear me from this side? Okay.
Oh, I can hear you better now. Yes,
Oh,
thank
good.
you.
Yay. Thank
Okay,
you,
so
Mark.
lessons learned?
Question for
Oh,
Sam.
absolutely.
You know, my screen still says you are viewing Kenneth's night screen. There's across the top of the page in green. So I don't know if Ken needs to click something off or,
Well, I think you might be the only one that has that, Rita.
oh, really? Yeah, well, I guess Ken and I are.
Yeah,
A match.
that's
I'm looking
strange.
at his screen.
Do you also know, Rita, that you are not on screen anymore? That
Yes,
you
I do know that.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. All right, Matthew.
Two questions. I don't know if we're responsible for this, but there's an election problem at Mary Myerson. I got a call, an older retired military guy, didn't know there was a ramp in the back. And went up the steps, and ended up sitting on the steps trying to catch his breath. So there was no signage indicating there was a ramp. So whether that's our responsibility or the Board of Elections could, this before the general election.
Yeah, I would say that that is the responsibility of the registrars. The registrars have provided some signage for us that we put up at the high school because they're larger and we put them on plywood. So we do take them up to the high school for them. But the smaller signage, they usually do themselves, but
There's no ramp in the front and no indication of a ramp.
yeah,
So how do we get that information to the registrars?
I will call her and let her know that we had that problem.
Okay.
The other thing is, several people told me that they smelled mold in Mary Morrison. I'm not making that assertion. It's, I don't know. Just check it out.
We couldn't hear that.
So Matthew was just making a comment about a citizen had talked about the fact that they had to climb stairs and were not ready to climb the stairs to go voting in Mary Morrison. And Sam is going to take care of that. And the second is that this another person talked about the fact that they smelled mold in Mary Morrison. And as we know, that is a building that we are keeping in case we have influx of needs or whatever, but also robotics is there. But are there any further questions for Sam? Because I am going to move us on.
I believe, Sam, there is a ramp in the back of Mary Morrison that was built for when we had a teacher that was in a wheelchair. So
Absolutely, Rita, that was what was discussed, and Sam is going to make sure that.
yeah, it's sorry, I couldn't hear it all. Thank
No,
you.
that's fine. That's fine. And so our next is the Director of Human Resources. It's good to see you in person, live and in person.
Live and in person. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, everybody on the screen. So,
Bless you.
bless you. I wanted to take an opportunity to kind of talk a little bit about our recruitment and outreach efforts that we've been working on throughout the summer and into the start of the school year.
Excuse me, Lori. I can barely hear you.
Let me
The
move
same-
around
same
to the
here.
side of the table.
Hold on. wait,
Oh,
see
you
if
got it?
this will work.
Oh, there you
Oh,
go.
thank you.
Problem solved.
Can you hear?
Is that better?
A little,
A little, yeah. Yeah,
How about that? Is that better?
no.
No, okay. How about I come around to the other side of the table real quick? How's that?
There you go.
Give that a whirl.
Thanks, Lori.
Pardon my movement here. Okay. You could hear Sam over here, so I'm gonna give this.
oh, yes, much better.
Okay, all right, maybe that microphone isn't working well.
Thank you, Lori.
Yep, no problem. So I wanted to provide everybody with an update on our recruitment and outreach efforts over the past several months through the summer for the start of the school year. And, you know, some of these things that we've been doing for some time, some are new initiatives. So I want to just kind of talk through some of these items with the board so that they had an understanding of, you know, what our outreach efforts look like to try and address our staffing needs for the start of the school year. So some of the newer initiatives for this summer that, you know, we all know the climate for hiring staff has been challenging the last couple of years. I think that's no mystery during the pandemic. That continues. There's been a lot of media coverage about how low unemployment is and that individuals have left the workforce in droves and have decided to maybe stop working. So that has created a significant shortage on top of people that maybe weren't comfortable working during the pandemic. So we're still feeling the effects of that, but we're making good progress on it. I think some of the community initiatives that we've never done in the past, this is one of the most extensive outreach campaigns we've done since I've been here, obviously to meet the needs of the district. We have actually gone out to community events. So we've been actually going to student registration events. We've been to Beacon Point Homes. Susan just recently handed out some flyers for us at a barbecue at Branford Manor.
Gave them all out.
Yeah, we literally sent staff down to Eastern Point Beach and handed out flyers to parents who were sitting on the beach for the day. And we've done that on numerous occasions. So we've been working hard to kind of get out in the community, in our local community, to say, are there parents or family members out there who are interested in maybe working for us? I hadn't thought about it. So that has been one of our newer initiatives this year. We do a regular partner with the Department of Labor office out of Montville. They're our local Department of Labor office. And as you know, they provide ongoing support to individuals in the community who are looking for jobs. And it's important that we're visible there because these are individuals who may know nothing about Groton Public Schools. So we want to kind of get in front of them and let them know that the opportunities that we have. So we have a regular appearance there that we make. They work with us to provide us with candidates. We meet with them there and then work to bring them on board and hire them for jobs that they're qualified for. We've also done a number of in-school events over the past 2 weeks. I think in the past we've done 1 or 2 actual school career fairs. This year we did 3. We did 2 at the elementary and 1 at the middle school for a combination middle school, high school support. In addition, we dove into this last year. We spent quite a bit of time kind of taking a deep dive into social media recruiting last year. And that continues as we move forward. We're actually, Rebecca and I are meeting this week to brainstorm some additional ways that we can expand our social media presence as it relates to kind of now hiring and our hiring needs. But the feedback that we received when we've met with individuals who are interested in working for the district, a fair number of them have said they've seen our social media posts. So that's definitely getting some traction for us, which is very helpful. And we also have used that as a platform to communicate our in-person events and said, come down and see us, come talk to us in person. And they've actually showed up at the events and said that they have seen our Facebook posts and wanted to come and talk to us about job opportunities. So, so that has been helpful. We still use some of the traditional methods, running ads in the day, getting our word with the day on through their online posts.
Getting articles submitted with our name in it.
Yeah, getting articles submitted, online postings of our own. We do collaborate with our partners. I know that's a question we get often. STA and the school district, we share candidates. If we get a bus driver, we send them their way. If they get somebody who's maybe not qualified to be a bus driver, but could be a bus aide, they send them our way. So we work with our partners. Same thing with Miranda. She's our military liaison. We regularly connect with Miranda. We send her a list of what we need. She sends it out to the military community. She's been very helpful to us. She reposts our Facebook posts within the community, within the military community. And we also interface with the town. We posted on the town library, the digital boards. They posted up for us our now hiring needs over the summer. And we also put that up at several of our schools' electronic boards. So just, we're hiring, come see us.
The new
Here's our
signs.
website. Yes. And then we also we just had printed with the return of school. We want to say, what else could we do to kind of get the word out? There's a lot of traffic going in and out of school properties. So we just had those lovely little yard signs printed up, and they are going out around the community, and they'll be on the lawns out in front of the school. So if parents are driving in and out, community members driving in and out for events, they'll see now hiring signs for the district. So we really kind of put our heads together this summer and say, basically pull out the stops. Anything and everything we could think of, we put it on the table and said, you know, we're gonna do everything we can to try and meet the needs. So, so that's just kind of an overview of, I know we provided a document that gave a number of specific events. Doesn't represent everything that we've done, but it tries to capture some of the larger scale events. We also do the larger community career fairs. Like the day every year runs 2 large career fairs right here at the Mystic Marriott, one in the fall, one in the spring. We're always at those. Those get a significant amount of foot traffic, so we always make sure that we're present at those larger community-based career events.
Roy, how do we do at these?
You know, we do, so far, we've been successful at all of them. We have not had an event where we didn't have somebody come and talk to us.
But how about hiring?
As far as hiring, we've made hires at the events. On average, on a smaller event, let's say one within our local school or community, we're usually averaging about 4 to 6 hires per event. The larger scale events, like the career fairs at the day, they have so much more foot traffic. We'll usually make a larger number of hires from an event like that. I know I took a look this afternoon, because we've had a number of hires since we published the data, even saying how many paras we need. And we had made a number of additional hires since the last update. I think we were from 50 down to 42
That
was the
was
last
my
count.
question. I heard that it was around 42.
Yeah.
And what we're opening in what, a couple of weeks?
Yeah, no, good question, Andrea. What we've been doing is working with the schools. We have to find creative solutions to this problem. So yes, we're still looking for paras, but what we do is we have worked with them at times to have a tutor support 2 students. And if we've had trouble finding a para, but we could find a tutor, we might actually have them provide those supports. We hire substitute paraprofessionals. So we might still show a para vacancy, but we've hired somebody in substitute capacity because they don't hold the qualifications, and we will actually help get them the qualifications. We'll help them prepare for the para-pro assessment. We'll offer them the assessment and get them qualified. Once that happens, they'll change their status from substitute to paraprofessional. So it's a good question, because on the surface, it looks like, what are we doing about these student needs? But it's employing some of these creative solutions to make sure that we can open the doors and provide support.
Well, I was happy to hear that there are like 3, 4, at least 4 hires sometimes for building.
For event, yeah.
Is it possible for us to get a list, an actual number of, we need this many, we need that many, or is that not within our jurisdiction?
Yeah, we have that data. Yeah, we can provide that. That's not a problem.
That would be
I
good
might
for
have
us.
Even put it in the board notes,
You
but it's
did.
constantly
Changing.
changing.
Yeah.
Maybe,
So,
so maybe
just-
that just is a continuous thing,
Yeah.
because I think that is gonna be one thing that we, as people who are in the community, that we're gonna be asked, because look, I mean, you guys got hiring signs. That's someone came up to me, like, you got hiring signs all over the place. What's going on? So I think that would just be useful. I am gonna recognize Liz.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kim.
Absolutely.
And, excuse me, Lori, I heard that, we've got one teacher that we still need to hire.
That's correct.
What grade level is that?
We had one social studies teacher at the middle school. We had a late resignation, and we just received on Friday resignation from a half-time Spanish teacher at the middle school.
But there may be a solution in-house.
Yeah, so we're taking a look at that. I know they are actively interviewing and trying to get someone in place for the social studies. We just found out about the Spanish on Friday, so we're already starting to take a look at alternatives for that.
Okay, and Erin McGuire has resigned at the
That's
high
correct.
school. What's the transition plan there for replacing her? She's a very, she's had a lot of responsibility at that high school. I'm just wondering what that plan is going to be. Is there a transition plan in place to help the new person, whoever's hired, to be able to take over that role?
Yeah, that's a good question, Liz. Yes, there is a transition plan in place. We have asked one of our retired administrators who has secondary experience to come in and work with the high school to kind of fill that void and make sure we have an administrator present for the start of school. The staff at the high school, the other administrators are working with Erin to transition her work. And then when the new person starts, they'll work on transitioning some of that work back over. I think they're gonna kind of reassess who's gonna do what up there and who might make sense to do what based on the skill set of the team, based
It's
on
a-
the new person coming in.
It's kind of an opportunity to kind of restructure in areas that we might need it. So I will keep the board abreast and have you in on some of that planning.
Yeah, I was just kind of curious because, you know, it's an opportunity, I see that. But but the beginning of the school year is so critical to get off on the right foot. And I remember that when I left Montville High School was in September, and they held me for they held me for like 3 weeks. And I know that is something that can be done. I'm not sure what happened, you know, what the thing was with Erin. I don't know the particulars at all. I was just kind of wondering if she is going to be held to help with the transition, or has she been, when's her contract end? And I don't know when all that stuff goes in, but you know, I was just wondering if we're going to hold or ask her, or to be, you know, have her help with that transition.
Yeah, she's been working with us on the transition since she gave her notice. And we were able to secure an administrator to take over for the start of school. So she's transitioning to that person, because you're right, Liz. I mean, we wouldn't want to leave that position unfilled or unattended for the school opening.
Yeah, I just,
So-
you know, I was surprised when I saw it on Facebook before it came out, before we got the notification officially, but I wish her the best of luck. She did a lot of hard and good work for Groton Public Schools for 10 years. So
Thank you, Liz.
just wanted to say that. Thank you very much.
Rita?
Yes, Lori, could you tell us who the administrator is that is filling in, the retired administrator, please?
Sure, it's Jeff Kotecki.
Oh, great, thank you.
Yeah, he has secondary experience, so we feel like, you know,
Yep.
he has an understanding of the needs of the students at that level.
That's wonderful, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other further questions for Lori? If not, we're gonna move on. Could you stay in case we need you for the executive session?
Yeah, sure.
I'm just thinking. Yeah, absolutely. But you don't want to sit next to me? So we're in for the, sorry, I said something very sneaky to Lori. So committee reports, policy.
Okay, we're working diligently on all the things that we've been working on. And we've taken back policies from what we sent to the board. And we're really diligently going after getting equity for everybody. We sent the eligibility to participate in interscholastic sports to Mark Bonanno. We said, this is what we want, not what we'd like. How are you gonna do that? He's gonna talk with his coaches about that. We're looking at the naming facilities. We're gonna move ahead with naming facilities in terms of the ad hoc committee, but we're looking at the wording on that. We want to change that.
Okay.
Make sure it's clear. We're looking at the challenging curriculum and the advanced course enrollment. Again, looking at equity, making sure that everybody is served by these.
Super. Hey, you guys have been turning and burning. Curriculum, Liz.
Yeah, we met today. Excuse me, Amy McKenna came and gave us some information about college prep versus basic level classes. And it was very encouraging to hear, at least I was encouraged to hear, that the supports that are in place and that are moving and evolving in the high school, especially for students who are not quite at grade level, and trying to help them go through. I was there when the basic level classes were eliminated, and the question had come up, is the college prep levels now being watered down? And Amy was quite adamant that no, they're not. It's there for students who are struggling. There are supports in there to help them maintain. And so I just, we had a very lengthy discussion, and I have some, I'll have in my notes, and I think Dr. Piazza has some notes about, what is going on at the high school and what the goal is, to help students keep being able to be exposed for rigorous opportunities, but also the concept of mobility. When you were, the idea was, we're in a basic class, you were stuck in a basic class for 4 years. And with the college prep level, this gives people an opportunity, a little bit easier opportunity to have more upward mobility. So they're working on that. The other thing we talked about, we've talked about a couple of things. We're looking at graduation requirements, policy 6146. And the question came up is, how do we change graduation requirements? And what's the process? And so we're not quite sure where that goes. I'm looking for my note that I wanted to say here. So I'm sorry, Phil, if you're there, or Andrea, how did we word that? Because I cannot find my note. So.
Bill, where are you?
Bill was not, well, anyway, we're looking at,
Tell me
there's been,
again.
the concern that was brought up was that we're looking at a total revamping of the social studies curriculum or standards by the state. And we have an inside scoop here because Carmita Hodge has been on that, working that all summer. And she is telling me that we're going to probably be out of compliance with once these standards go into place. And the other thing is became aware of is that our history, our US history curriculum does not go past 1960. And as you know, there's a lot of information about United States history that goes farther. So we're looking at, do we need to increase, should we increase graduation requirements? Right now, math, science, and English are all 4 credits. Social studies is the only one that's 3 credits. And we are investigating about our surrounding areas. For example, East Line, it's 3.5 credits that you have to get. So we're looking at that, and we do need that direction of where do we go? How do we go about, what's the process about this change of graduation requirements? Does it have to start at the full board, or we just don't know what to do? So Kim, that's going to be something I think you and Susan might have to discuss and give us some direction. There's an update on, we're beginning our investigation of financial literacy across grade levels. And we're also continuing our audit. Dr. Piazza is doing an audit with the high school and the middle school, the audits about curriculum, board approved curriculum in both program of studies for both institutions. We have been busy.
And Liz, if I could add, you asked me to jump in, but we wanted, Susan, if you would talk to your contemporaries about how they are, how do they decide among themselves what the credit system is, how many credits this is, and so on and forth. If you could talk to other superintendents, and maybe even we could get some input from Rita at large.
Thank you. I forgot that, Andrea. Thank you very much.
Rita?
Hi, yes, in past years, when the state has mandated, like when we increased our science to 4 credits, and it was very simple. The state tells you what, that you have to do it. They usually give you about 2 years. So even with the social studies, you don't have to do it immediately,
right?
Because you have to build that curriculum. And it's just a policy change. And you just say, from now on, we're going to be having 4 credits for social studies.
Yeah, but Rita, the problem we ran into is that according to the current state data, for example, you only need 3 credits of math. We require 4.
We require 4, and we can just increase social studies also.
Okay, so that's what we were kind of wondering, is there a process and a presentation? So we want to
Maybe-
make sure we do it correctly.
Yeah,
as
I
well.
And
think
maybe
that
learn
social
would be a-
studies has been coming a long time. I mean, we've heard this for a while now that they were going to be increasing 4 credits for social studies. Some high schools actually have 2 years for US history. And maybe
Yes.
that's something we're going to have to look into, especially, so we could get up to 2022 or 23.
Wouldn't that be phenomenal?
Yes.
But
Liz-
that's, I just wanted you to know what we were doing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. That's amazing.
I'll look
Thank you.
into that more with Phil.
Yeah, just to give you a quick heads up, the African American, Black history, Puerto Rican and Latin American studies is on the docket to become a mandated class probably within the next 2 years. So, that's going to impact us there as well.
Jay. Finance and
Finance and,
facilities.
Finance and Facilities met on August 2nd. We reviewed the history of the health insurance claims, the ARP ESSER spending, next year's CIPs, summer facilities projects, bus contract, and bus routes. Thank you.
Wow.
Wow. These committees are very busy. Communications. Do you want to?
Sure. The first part of our communication meeting this evening went over the communication survey, which had been presented to the board earlier. Rebecca reported that they analyzed it to see if there were anomalies in one school or another that had skewed the data, and they determined that there were no such anomalies. The data is valid across the district. The information, I believe, Phil, correct me if I'm mistaken, but Phil is going to start sharing this at the school level, and that looks like it's in good shape. They're looking at some of the apps that we're having for parents to use to communicate, to get some uniformity, at least within the schools, if not within the system. And the other part of our meeting was on the priorities we wanted to embark upon for the next year. We came up with 3 categories: common methods of communication within schools to families, how the district communicates to families at home, and how the homes can communicate to the district to be quicker, better quality, and more variety. The third is to increase family engagement. And the fourth is public outreach. We shared between us perhaps a half a dozen, maybe 8 different public outreach strategies, and we agreed that we would reflect individually and make a final decision next time. And there's one more that eludes me, Kim.
You did better than me.
And me.
Well, I guess I was listening probably what you alluded, we'll catch up next month.
Yeah. I think one of the things, board, just that we did come up, that was what I was just starting to say, was that we were actually wanting to see if we could have the PTOs kind of take a look at doing that liaison meeting again, now with the age of having Zoom. And so people are not having to leave their house, at nighttime, as a way of increasing the inter-school connections with, for the different PTOs, but also it allows the board to also hear quick and dirty. So Phil was going to come up with some ideas about how to reach out and to the different PTOs to see if they would be interested in doing that. Did I do that?
Yeah, and several PTO presidents have suggested they would like to see.
And the high school has not had a PTO in a long time. I'd love to see the high school have some kind of an organization that can be a counsel to the principal too, so that we get that information directly. It's mostly booster club kind of information, but it would be nice to have that too. I'd like to see that happen.
Okay, so I'm going to move on. Negotiations, the negotiating team is working with our admins, a contract, and we're in negotiations. That's really as far. But it's been going very pleasant, I might add. Learn, that would be you, Rita.
We have meetings on Friday, so I can report next week.
right.
Next month.
The town council RTM Board of Ed liaison, that's actually better known as Kim's Shame Walk, has not gone off the board yet. AGSA, GEA Board of Ed liaison, we have not met over the summer. Groton Scholarship,
That's me. We don't meet until sometime in September, early October. I'll
okay,
let you know as soon as I know.
thank you.
Oh, I had a question actually for Liz. When you do meet,
Yep.
you know, when someone makes a donation and you send out this form and then said, would you like to attend? Would you like to receive the program of who received your scholarship? And I always mark yes. And I didn't receive it this year, nor did a few other people I know. They've been asking me. And I said, well, I have no idea. We haven't received that. Usually the high school sends that to the people who make donations. So I don't know who to talk to about that, but you know, I just
Okay.
think, you know, it'd be just something to bring up, and maybe the principal at the high school should be sending like the usual, should be sending these out to the various people in the community who do make donations.
I agree with you.
Yeah, it's nice to see who received your scholarship.
It is nice. I will make sure that gets mentioned, Rita. Thank you.
Thanks.
Same with Andrea.
Yeah, and if I could add something else, I had a question about my scholarship, and I addressed it with the scholarship committee directly, and they took care of it, and I want to thank them very much for that.
Super. Yay. Athletic fields, Jay, I see that they met this week.
Yes, after having not met for many, many months, they did meet last Thursday. Basically, the holdup is still the Claude Chester Visioning Committee. And they did some housekeeping items, and that was about it.
Did they have any conversation about the crowning of the field and stuff?
No, that was not discussed.
Trails,
Neither Trails nor the library met in August. Trails is the quarterly meeting next month, and library meets again next month.
okay, thank you. And the military,
I think we'll be meeting in October.
okay. All right, so moving us on to action items, which is the consent agenda, where all matters listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion, with points of clarification will be allowed. Can I have a motion? I've got Liz for the first of the consent agenda. I have a second from Andrea. Do I have a discussion?
Just to say thank you.
All right.
This is amazing, especially Costco and Pfizer's with their gifts. And
I have to say, we saw thrilled parents and children as we gave half of those away at the barbecue in Branford Manor. And I had gone out to the dollar store and provided all the things that you can put in it and they could pick. And so they kept saying how much they appreciated it. And they were beautiful backpacks, I have to tell you.
did you
Really
take
great.
pictures?
I do have a couple pictures, yeah.
Can you post them?
Yeah,
You know, I think that would be great for our Facebook page and.
Yep, I'll forward those.
All right, any other discussion? All those in favor of the approval of the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Oppose, abstain? We have carried. The board would like to thank Costco Wholesale, who has donated 64 backpacks with school supplies. And Pfizer has donated the following items to the Pitch High School: nature sound clocks, Rubik cubes, Eagle carry bags, certificate holders, JAK branded lanyards, Jenga games, Pfizer string bags, and VFEND branded pens.
They're just pens, like that you write with.
And 8 cases of t-shirts, sizes large to extra large, and Pfizer notebooks, 20 a case. So the board would like us to thank both of those companies for their continued involvement and help with our district. There is no old business. I'm moving us on to new business. Liz, since you're right in my eyesight, would you please read the motion for number 1?
Yes, I'd be glad to. Motion is to recognize September 20th, 2022 as National IT Professionals Day and to direct the superintendent of schools to send a letter of appreciation to the IT staff.
Can I have a second to that motion, please?
Second.
I've got Matthew as a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor to recognize September 20th, 2022 as a National IT Professional Day and to direct the superintendent of schools to send a letter of appreciation. All please say aye.
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 Oppose, abstain, that motion has carried. I know that our second is to go into executive, most likely be going into second to executive session. I would like to know if people would be okay that we try to handle the rest of the agenda so that when we come out of executive session, we can close out the meeting and leave.
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
so I am going to go to Liz and for letters or communication or comments.
Yes, I had a parent or a community member come up to me and ask about the charging stations at the middle school or at the schools, about what the impact of the people charging their cars and is on the district. Do we have to pay for that? I sent my query over to Jay and he's investigating that, sent back a comment that, during the school day, those charging stations don't seem to be being used. However, on the weekends, it seems like people are charging their cars there. So I think this is something we need to consider is, are we being taken advantage of? So that was one of those things that I was not expecting, but I sent it to the right person. I thought that was interesting. I don't have any other communications. I'm just thinking. Nope, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. Rita.
No communications except about the people that we're going to be interviewing to fill the position.
All right, thank you. Jay?
I just want to take a moment to recognize one of our bus drivers, Madeline Sheets, who passed away on August 15th. She actually served the district for almost 40 years through Eastern, Bancom, Laidlaw, and STA. And so for all those years, she was a driver, of our students. And like I said, sadly passed away August 15th. She will have a celebration of life on Sunday, September 18th at the Elks Lodge in Groton at 2 p.m. So I just wanted to send my condolences to her family.
Thanks, Jay.
Jay, thank you. Matthew.
No comments.
Andy, I know this.
Chocolate, it's true.
No, I can't have it. But anyways, Andrea.
Susan and I went to a celebration of the 100 men of color in the state of Connecticut. It was in Simsbury, and we celebrated Jamal Davis. And I just want to say congratulations again to Jamal and to the wonderful things that we were doing for our district.
So I also had the other emails that we got from that Sam had talked about with from Miss Wood. And also just to let you know that very soon you guys will be getting the questions that will be put together. So you'll have that ahead of time before we go into the interviews. And also just to let you guys know that we did get feedback from the board attorney, Floyd Dugas, who said that, yes, we can hold these in executive session. So really plan on 6 executive sessions. It's going to be awkward and maybe kind of clunky, but at least we know that we are following protocol. So each person will have an executive session, and then our 6th one will be when we get to have the board can have a discussion about our about each candidate, and I'm telling them about 20 minutes, actually 20, I'm holding people to 20 minutes for each of the interviews so that we're not there all night. Not that I don't want to spend time with you guys.
Could you tell us the time it starts again?
It's gonna be, I'm gonna try to hold us to the 6 to 8.
Okay,
No later than that. So I'm really gonna try to hold it as a regular meeting next Monday.
Next Monday.
All right.
August 29th.
All right. And so just to, not that we have not ramped up all summer long, we've been very busy. I think there's just been a lot of things for us to be talking about and thinking about, but there's our list of advanced planning. And also just remember that we are going to be also scheduling a retreat in there at some point, hopefully, with Mary Broderick to do some work for us, to do our vision and goals and such. Liz?
I just wanted to let you know, Kim, and just to say, the curriculum meeting on the 19th will have a new date. We
Okay.
haven't figured out what it is yet, but it'll probably be like September 12th.
And I believe that the same is going to be true for the communications as well. So thank you. And I believe the 29th has been canceled as for negotiations.
September 29th is on. It's the August date that was canceled.
So I apologize. That was incorrect information. Thank you, Lori. All right.
Kim, do you have any idea yet about when we're going to have that board retreat?
No, but I'm going to make sure that it's not the time period that you are not available.
Thank you.
Yep. Suggested agenda topics. Matthew?
I'd like to bring the mentor question back for the cow in anticipation of my making a motion at the next regular meeting. Since we last discussed it, the White House released a initiative in July seeking 250,000 volunteers for mentoring and tutoring, saying that it could be funded through, that the people would be funded through the it was Vista volunteers when I went through it 60 years ago, and that we could use them. The matching funds that are required from organizations can be used for it. They said that the learning losses they gave, not for the Groton district, but just nationally, were 4 to 6 months, depending upon whether it was reading or math. I know there are challenges, but I first brought this up. If we don't do mentors, I can live with that. But something, we have some kids who are at risk, and if we don't help them, nobody else is going to do it. So I'll bring this up. Beg you to put that on the agenda.
It's right there. So I'm going to have Susan kind of give us a status report, and then also what are the plans moving forward and what's the timeline? Okay.
We've got some good ideas.
Wait.
All right. Any other agenda items? Okay, so I'm going to read the motion for the next part, and I hope that, Mark, you are around to put people into the people who are board members into a separate room, but I think you are hearing me. And you said yes, so, okay. I am going to make a motion to go into executive session with the Board of Education for specific purposes of talking about the superintendent's compensation package for the 2022-2023 year. I am going to suggest that we invite Susan Austin, and we also invite Lori Lapine as the human service person. Human resources, same
She is
thing.
also human service.
All right, can I have a second to that? I've got Liz. Do I have any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of going into executive session, please say aye.
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 Oppose? Motion is carried. Mark, if you could do your magic.
You got it. Welcome
Hi,
back.
Mark. Thank you.
All right. We are,
Andrea doesn't need to write it down because it's going to be recorded. So,
oh.
yeah.
So, but we left executive session at 8:35. I told her to go home.
So to go home.
All right, so let me know when we're ready. I'm just going to ask for Jay to read the motion.
Ready.
Hi, Jay.
Okay. I would like to make a motion to grant the superintendent of schools, Susan Austin, a 2% wage increase retroactive to July 1st, 2022, and to agree to buy back 12 vacation days on a one-time basis to be deposited into her annuity. Further, I move we extend her contract for one additional year. So
Can I have a
moved.
second to that?
Second.
I have Andrea seconding. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor on the motion on the floor, please say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? The motion is carried. I will entertain a motion for ending.
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
Good night,
second by
everyone.
Jay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All
Two
right.
hands.
Oppose, abstain. Mark, we're done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Good night.
everybody. See you soon.
Yep.